Every battlefield begins long before the first move is made. Most people believe victory belongs to the strongest, the loudest, or the smartest person in the room. They spend years sharpening their skills, collecting knowledge, and trying to prove themselves. Yet history tells a different story. Empires have fallen to weaker enemies. Kings have been defeated by invisible rivals. Geniuses have been manipulated by ordinary minds. The difference was never intelligence alone. It was strategy. The uncomfortable truth is that life is not a fair competition. Every conversation is a negotiation. Every friendship carries hidden expectations. Every workplace is a chessboard where invisible games unfold beneath polite smiles. Those who fail to recognize the game become pieces. Those who recognize it become players. Today, you'll discover 5 rules that separate those who react from those who quietly shape the outcome. These are not tricks. They are principles. Must dare them. And people will wonder why you always seem to stay 3 moves ahead. Rule 1. Never reveal your entire mind. The first mistake most people make is believing that intelligence is measured by how much they can express. They assume that speaking first demonstrates confidence, that explaining every idea proves competence, and that revealing every ambition earns respect. In reality, the opposite is often true. Every unnecessary word gives away a piece of your strategy. Every explanation exposes your priorities. Every emotional reaction offers a glimpse into your thinking. Before long, others no longer need to guess what you want because you have already told them. The moment your intentions become predictable, your ability to influence the situation begins to shrink. Human beings are naturally uncomfortable with uncertainty. When they cannot fully understand someone's motives, they become cautious. They observe more carefully, make fewer assumptions, and hesitate before acting. This hesitation creates an invisible advantage for the person who remains difficult to read. It is not about pretending to be mysterious or acting distant. It is about understanding that information has value, and once it is given away freely, it can never be taken back. The mind that reveals everything loses the freedom to adapt, while the mind that stays reserved keeps every option available. Observe any conversation closely and a pattern begins to appear. One person feels the need to fill every silence. They explain their plans in detail, defend every opinion, and reveal what excites or frustrates them. The other person speaks less, asks thoughtful questions, and simply listens. At first glance, the quieter individual appears passive, but something important is happening beneath the surface. Every sentence spoken by the talkative person becomes valuable information. Their fears become visible, their desires become obvious, their habits become predictable. Meanwhile, the listener gives away almost nothing. By the end of the conversation, one person understands nearly everything about the other, while remaining largely unknown themselves. That imbalance quietly shifts the power in the interaction. People often underestimate the strength of silence because they confuse it with weakness. In reality, silence forces others to reveal themselves. Most individuals dislike empty space in a conversation, so they rush to fill it. They volunteer details they never intended to share simply because they feel uncomfortable with the pause. A patient observer recognizes this tendency and never interrupts it. The longer someone talks, the more patterns emerge. Their confidence, insecurities, ambitions, and fears begin to surface naturally without any need for pressure. Information gathered this way is often more reliable than information obtained through direct questioning because people lower their guard when they believe they are simply talking. There is another danger in revealing too much. People begin preparing for you long before you make your move. If everyone knows your goals, they can anticipate your actions. If they know what matters most to you, they know where to apply pressure. If they understand your emotional triggers, they know exactly how to distract or manipulate you. Predictability is convenient for everyone except the person being predicted. Strategy depends on flexibility, and flexibility disappears the moment your intentions become public knowledge. This does not mean becoming dishonest or secretive for its own sake. There is an important difference between deception and restraint. Deception creates false realities that must constantly be maintained. Restraint simply recognizes that not every thought deserves immediate expression. Not every plan benefits from public discussion. Not every emotion requires an audience. The strongest decisions are often developed quietly before they are revealed through action rather than words. Many people seek validation by announcing what they intend to accomplish. They mistake applause for progress. They speak about future success as though speaking alone brings it closer. Yet public declarations often create an illusion of achievement before any real work has been done. The satisfaction of being admired for an idea can reduce the urgency to complete it. Quiet individuals avoid this trap. They allow their results to introduce them instead of their promises. They understand that completed actions carry far more weight than ambitious conversations. Discipline over speech is also discipline over emotion. The urge to immediately respond, defend yourself, or prove someone wrong usually comes from pride rather than wisdom. A controlled mind recognizes that every reaction is a choice. By resisting the impulse to explain yourself, you deny others the opportunity to shape your behavior through provocation. You remain focused on your objective instead of becoming trapped in someone else's emotional game. The most influential people are rarely those who constantly demand attention. They often possess a calm presence that encourages others to speak while they observe. They understand that every interaction contains 2 forms of value: the information you reveal and the information you collect. Most people spend their lives maximizing the first and neglecting the second. Those who quietly reverse that equation gradually develop a deeper understanding of the people around them, making their decisions more precise and their actions far more difficult to predict. Rule 2. Study weakness, not strength. Most people spend their lives being distracted by what others display on the surface. They admire confidence, success, intelligence, and charisma without asking what lies beneath them. They assume that a person's greatest strength is the key to understanding them. In reality, strength is often carefully cultivated to hide something far more revealing. Every human being carries invisible fears, unmet needs, and emotional blind spots. These hidden vulnerabilities shape decisions far more than logic ever will. If you want to understand people, stop studying the image they present to the world and begin studying the emotions they work hardest to conceal. Every action has a deeper motive. A person who constantly seeks attention may not be driven by confidence, but by a fear of being overlooked. Someone who dominates every conversation may not feel powerful at all, but may be desperately trying to silence feelings of insecurity. Another person who appears endlessly generous might secretly crave approval more than appreciation. Human behavior is rarely random. It is usually an attempt to satisfy an emotional need or escape an emotional discomfort. Those who recognize these hidden patterns begin to see people with greater clarity than those who judge only appearances. Weakness rarely announces itself openly. It disguises itself as pride, ambition, humor, kindness, or even anger. This is why careful observation is more valuable than quick judgment. Listen closely to what people complain about repeatedly. Notice what topics instantly change their tone. Watch which criticisms they cannot ignore and which compliments brighten their expression. Emotional reactions reveal what reason tries to hide. A person may control their words, but controlling spontaneous emotion is far more difficult. In moments of frustration, excitement, jealousy, or fear, the true priorities of the mind become visible. Pause matter more than isolated moments. Everyone has bad days, emotional reactions, or occasional mistakes. The real insight comes from repetition. If someone constantly seeks recognition, there is likely a deep need for validation. If another repeatedly compares themselves to others, insecurity may be quietly shaping their choice. If someone becomes defensive whenever a particular subject is mentioned, there is usually an unresolved emotional attachment hidden beneath that reaction. Repeated behaviors form a map of the inner world, and that map is often more accurate than anything people deliberately tell you about themselves. Observation requires patience because people rarely reveal themselves immediately. They reveal themselves over time through habits rather than speeches. Notice how they treat people who cannot benefit them. Observe whether they remain consistent when no reward is involved. Pay attention to how they react when plans fail or expectations are not met. Pressure removes social masks. Under stress, people stop performing and begin responding according to their true nature. These moments offer far more valuable information than carefully rehearsed conversations. The desire to impress often prevents genuine understanding. Many people enter conversations thinking about what they will say next instead of paying attention to what is actually being revealed. They interrupt, offer advice too quickly, or search for opportunities to display their own knowledge. In doing so, they miss countless clues. A patient observer asks thoughtful questions and allows silence to do part of the work. People naturally expand on subjects that matter deeply to them. The more they speak, the more connections appear between their emotions, beliefs, and decisions. Their weaknesses slowly emerge without feeling interrogated. Understanding weakness is not about exploiting people for selfish gain. It is about recognizing the forces that influence human behavior. Someone who understands fear can avoid creating unnecessary conflict. Someone who understands pride can communicate more effectively. Someone who understands insecurity can predict reactions before they occur. Awareness creates influence because it replaces assumptions with understanding. Instead of wondering why people behave a certain way, you begin recognizing the emotional patterns driving their choices. One of the greatest mistakes is assuming that intelligence protects people from weakness. It does not. Brilliant minds can still crave admiration. Successful leaders can still fear rejection. Wealthy individuals can still feel insignificant. Experience changes circumstances, but it does not erase human emotion. Every person, regardless of status or achievement, carries invisible desires that shape perception and decision-making. The more accomplished someone becomes, the more carefully they may hide these vulnerabilities, making patient observation even more valuable. People also reveal themselves through what they envy. Envy points directly toward an unfulfilled desire. Instead of asking what someone says they want, notice what success in others makes them uncomfortable. Their attention naturally gravitates toward what they secretly wish they possessed. Likewise, notice what they celebrate with unusual enthusiasm. Genuine admiration often reflects personal values, while exaggerated praise may reveal an aspiration they have not yet achieved. These emotional responses provide insight into motivations that words alone rarely uncover. True perception comes from looking beyond appearances and resisting the temptation to accept people exactly as they present themselves. Every smile has a reason, every ambition has a history, every fear has a story, and every decision carries traces of emotions that remain unseen by casual observers. Those who develop the discipline to notice these hidden patterns begin understanding not only what people do but why they do it, allowing them to anticipate behavior with far far greater accuracy than those who rely solely on first impressions. Rule 3. Control your emotions before they control you. The greatest battles are rarely fought against other people. They are fought within the mind. Every day, countless decisions are influenced not by logic but by emotion. Anger demands immediate action. Fear urges retreat. Pride refuses compromise. Envy distorts judgment. Excitement encourages reckless confidence. These emotions are natural, but when they become the force behind your decisions, they quietly take control of your life. The person who cannot govern their own emotions will always find themselves reacting to circumstances instead of directing them. Most people believe emotional strength means never feeling anger, disappointment, or frustration. That belief is impossible. Emotions are automatic responses, not personal failures. Strength lies in what happens after the emotion appears. There is a brief moment between feeling something and acting upon it. In that small space exists the difference between wisdom and regret. Those who train themselves to pause before reacting gain an advantage that most people never realize exists. They are no longer controlled by the intensity of the moment, but by the clarity of deliberate thought. Consider how easily people can be manipulated through emotion. A single insult ruins an entire day. One negative comment overshadows 10 compliments. A rumor changes someone's behavior before they even verify whether it is true. This happens because emotional reactions often bypass careful thinking. When people become angry, they stop listening. When they become afraid, they imagine threats that may not exist. When pride is wounded, they become desperate to restore their image. Anyone who understands this can influence those who fail to control their emotions simply by triggering the right response. This is why emotional discipline is one of the rarest forms of strength. It cannot be purchased, borrowed, or displayed with words. It reveals itself only under pressure. Anyone can appear calm when life is easy. The real test comes when expectations collapse, criticism arrives unexpectedly, or plans begin falling apart. These moments expose whether someone has mastered themselves or merely enjoyed favorable circumstances. Pressure does not create character. It reveals the character that has always been there. When emotions take control, perception becomes distorted. Anger convinces you that immediate retaliation is necessary. Fear magnifies obstacles until they appear impossible to overcome. Excitement encourages promises that cannot be kept. Jealousy transforms another person's success into a personal defeat. Each emotion tells a convincing story, but emotions are not always accurate reflections of reality. They are temporary experiences that often disappear once the intensity fades. Decisions made during these emotional peaks frequently become the decisions people regret most. Patience is the hidden weapon of emotionally disciplined individuals. They understand that time weakens emotional intensity. A response delayed by an hour is usually wiser than one delivered in a moment of frustration. A decision postponed until tomorrow often reveals possibilities that anger could not see today. Silence during conflict prevents unnecessary damage that words spoken in haste cannot easily repair. Waiting is not weakness. It is the refusal to let temporary emotions dictate permanent consequences. Another mistake people make is believing they must respond to everything immediately. Every criticism feels like an attack that demands defense. Every disagreement becomes a contest that must be won. Every insult appears to threaten personal dignity. In reality, not every battle deserves participation. Some conflicts exist only because someone wants an emotional reaction. By refusing to engage, you deny them the satisfaction they seek while preserving your own peace of mind. Self-control often frustrates those who depend on provoking others. Emotional discipline also sharpens observation. When your own emotions remain balanced, you become more aware of the emotions surrounding you. While others lose themselves in frustration or excitement, you notice subtle changes in tone, expression, and behavior. You recognize hesitation before others see it. You detect confidence turning into uncertainty. You sense fear hidden behind aggression. Because your judgment remains clear, you gather information that emotional people overlook. Calmness is not only protective, it is deeply perceptive. Confidence built upon emotional control is different from confidence based on pride. Pride constantly seeks proof of superiority and becomes defensive whenever it feels challenged. Emotional discipline requires no such validation. It remains steady regardless of praise or criticism because its foundation is internal rather than external. Approval becomes welcome but unnecessary. Disapproval becomes informative rather than destructive. This freedom allows decisions to be guided by principles instead of public opinion. Mastering emotion does not mean becoming cold or detached from life. It means refusing to let temporary feelings become permanent rulers of your judgment. Compassion remains possible without weakness. Confidence remains possible without arrogance. Determination remains possible without anger. A disciplined mind experiences every emotion but chooses carefully which ones deserve action. That choice separates those who merely react to the world from those who move through it with purpose, precision, and unwavering control over their own direction. Rule 4. Let others underestimate you. One of the most common mistakes people make is believing they must constantly prove their worth. They enter every room determined to display their intelligence, advertise their achievements, and make sure everyone recognizes their abilities. They interrupt conversations to correct others, compete over who knows more, and search for opportunities to remind people of their accomplishments. While this may earn temporary attention, it also creates an unexpected unexpected disadvantage. The moment people fully understand your capabilities, they begin preparing for them. They become more cautious, more defensive, and more determined to challenge you. By revealing all of your strengths too early, you surrender the powerful element of surprise. There is a quiet strength in allowing others to underestimate you. It requires confidence because it asks you to resist the urge for immediate recognition. Most people crave acknowledgement. They want credit for every effort and praise for every success. Their ego demands visible proof that they matter. But true confidence does not depend on constant validation. It understands that influence grows stronger when it develops naturally rather than being announced. Those who are secure in their abilities have little need to convince others of them. People often judge others quickly using appearances, first impressions, and surface-level observations. They assume that the loudest person is the most capable, that confidence always equals competence, and that quietness signals weakness. These assumptions become opportunities for those who understand human nature. When expectations are low, people relax. They stop watching closely. They reveal information more freely because they no longer perceive a threat. They become comfortable believing they have already measured your potential, and comfort often leads to carelessness. History repeatedly shows that the greatest victories are achieved not through obvious displays of power, but through unexpected action. When opponents believe they have already figured you out, they stop looking for hidden possibilities. Their confidence blinds them. They focus on what they expect to happen instead of preparing for what is actually coming. This is why underestimation is not a disadvantage, but a strategic position. It allows you to work, prepare, and improve without attracting unnecessary resistance or envy. Ego is often the greatest obstacle to this approach. It whispers that every misunderstanding must be corrected, every criticism answered, and every achievement announced. It fears being overlooked more than making mistakes. Yet responding to every challenge only reveals how deeply your self-worth depends on the opinions of others. Emotional independence begins when you no longer feel obligated to prove yourself to everyone you meet. Not every person deserves access to your full potential, and not every situation requires you to demonstrate everything you know. There is also wisdom in recognizing that people's expectations influence their behavior. If someone believes you are incapable, they may become careless with their words and decisions. They might underestimate your preparation, overlook your observations, or dismiss your ideas without serious consideration. While they focus on maintaining their own image, you remain free to gather information, refine your strategy, and choose the right moment to act. Their assumptions become your advantage because they shape their behavior more than they shape yours. Remaining underestimated also protects you from unnecessary attention. Visible success often attracts competition, criticism, and jealousy. The more people perceive you as a threat, the more energy they invest in limiting your progress. Quiet progress avoids many of these obstacles. While others compete for recognition, you continue building skills, strengthening your position, and expanding your understanding. By the time your results become impossible to ignore, much of the important work has already been completed. Patience is essential because the rewards of being underestimated rarely appear immediately. There will be moments when your ideas are dismissed, your abilities questioned, or your silence mistaken for weakness. These moments test your discipline. The temptation to prove everyone wrong through arguments or dramatic displays can be overwhelming, yet every unnecessary attempt to defend your reputation gives others more information than they deserve. Consistent action remains more convincing than passionate explanation. Being underestimated should never become an excuse for pretending to be less capable than you truly are. False humility is just another form of performance, and performances eventually collapse under pressure. The goal is not to hide your competence, but to let your work reveal it at the proper time. Quiet confidence allows others to form whatever opinions they choose without feeling compelled to control those opinions. You focus on preparation instead of perception, substance instead of appearance, and results instead of applause. The strongest individuals understand that recognition gained too early can become a burden, while recognition earned through undeniable achievement carries lasting respect. They resist the urge to seek approval because they know approval is temporary, but capability endures. They allow people to underestimate them if it creates room to think clearly, act patiently, and move without unnecessary resistance. When the moment finally arrives to reveal what they have built, it is no longer necessary to argue about their ability because the evidence speaks with a force that words could never achieve. Rule 5. Make others depend on your value power is often misunderstood. Many people believe it comes from authority, wealth, titles, or the ability to control others. They spend years chasing positions that appear influential, hoping that status alone will command respect. Yet history repeatedly proves that positions can be taken away, titles can be stripped, and authority can disappear overnight. The kind of influence that truly endures is built on something far more difficult to replace. It comes from becoming genuinely valuable. When people recognize that your presence consistently improves outcomes, your importance no longer depends on a title or a position. It becomes part of the foundation upon which others rely. The strongest form of influence is never forced. It is invited. Think about the individuals every successful team depends on. They may not always be the loudest voices or the most visible faces, but they are the ones who solve problems when everyone else is confused. They remain calm during uncertainty. They bring clarity where others bring panic. Their knowledge, reliability, reliability, and judgment quietly become essential to those around them. Because they create value consistently, people naturally seek their guidance without being told to do so. Most people make the mistake of chasing attention instead of usefulness. They focus on appearing important rather than becoming important. Attention is temporary. It shifts from one person to another with incredible speed. Value, however, has lasting influence. The person who repeatedly delivers meaningful results earns trust over time, and trust is one of the rarest forms of power. Once people know they can rely on you, your words carry greater weight, your ideas receive more consideration, and your absence becomes noticeable. Reliability is often underestimated because it lacks drama. Extraordinary talent may attract admiration, but consistent dependability builds confidence. A person who succeeds once may impress others. A person who succeeds repeatedly becomes someone others cannot easily replace. Every promise kept strengthens your reputation. Every responsibility handled with care increases confidence in your abilities. Over time, this consistency creates an invisible network of trust that no amount of self-promotion can imitate. Skills also determine how valuable you become. The modern world rewards those who continue learning while others become comfortable. Every new skill expands your ability to solve problems. Every challenge overcome increases your usefulness. Instead of asking how to gain more recognition, ask how to become more capable. Recognition often follows capability naturally, while capability rarely follows recognition. The individual who invests in continuous improvement becomes increasingly difficult to replace because they offer solutions that fewer people can provide. Equally important is the ability to remain composed when others become overwhelmed. During moments of crisis, people instinctively look for stability. They seek individuals whose judgment remains clear despite pressure. Panic spreads quickly, but calmness spreads even faster. When you become the person who can think clearly while others react emotionally, your value increases beyond technical skill alone. People begin trusting not only what you know, but how you respond when circumstances become difficult. Creating value also requires generosity with your knowledge without becoming dependent on praise. Teach when appropriate. Help others improve. Share insights that strengthen the people around you. Contrary to popular belief, empowering others does not diminish your own influence. It often increases it. People remember those who contributed to their growth. Respect earned through genuine contribution lasts far longer than admiration gained through intimidation. However, becoming valuable does not mean allowing yourself to be exploited. There is a difference between being helpful and making yourself endlessly available. Healthy boundaries protect your time, energy, and focus. When your abilities are always accessible without limit, people may begin taking them for granted. Scarcity creates appreciation. By choosing carefully where you invest your efforts, you preserve both your effectiveness and your well-being. The goal is to be respected for your contributions, not exhausted by endless demands. Another overlooked aspect of lasting influence is integrity. Competence without integrity creates hesitation. People may admire your talent while doubting your intentions. But when skill is combined with honesty, consistency, and accountability, confidence in you grows much stronger. Others begin believing not only that you can achieve results, but that you will pursue them responsibly. This combination transforms temporary success into lasting credibility. The pursuit of indispensability is ultimately a journey of self-development rather than control over others. Every improvement you make increases the quality of what you can offer the world. Every lesson learned, every discipline mastered, and every challenge overcome strengthens your ability to create meaningful impact. Rather than asking how to make people depend on you, ask how to become someone whose presence consistently makes situations better. When your contribution becomes undeniable, opportunities begin finding you instead of the other way around. In the end, the people with the greatest influence are rarely those who demanded loyalty or forced obedience. They are the ones whose character, competence, and consistency made them impossible to ignore. They earned trust before seeking authority, built value before expecting recognition, and focused on contribution before chasing admiration. Remember the 5 rules: guard your intentions, study human nature, master your emotions, welcome being underestimated, create undeniable value.